Hey, this is Brendan from Comic Con. Today we have a very special guest with us today. We have Mr. Johnny Jimenez. You know him for Vegas Toy Shack, also known for his appearances on Pawn Stars as their local toy expert. I met up with Johnny at Las Vegas Toy Con 2024, and it was just really interesting to me how many different fandoms came together and how they came together, and this group of friends that run this convention and a couple other conventions around the country. So I asked Johnny to come on the show today. We're going to talk about a few subjects here today. Afternoon, Johnny. How you doing?
Hey, good to see you.
So, first and foremost, you and I just a moment ago were talking about how this whole Pawn Star thing came together. Like you're in Vegas, Rick's got his pawn shop in Vegas, and there's some wild stuff coming in the middle of the night and stuff like that, things that they don't necessarily deal with, and they're giving you phone calls and texts and stuff sometimes at 2 o'clock in the morning. And tell me about like just kind of the genesis of this relationship, how'd that happen?
Yeah, it was kind of funny because we had a lot of relationships with a lot of these pawn shops that were 24 hours, and there was a lot of great stuff that they would get that they wouldn't buy. So we would always have an incentive, either, whether we bought them pizza or bought them lunch or threw them a bone on some other stuff, and then they send us these great leads at like 2, 3 in the morning, and then that relationship grew into the show, and it's been wonderful. It's definitely put us on the map, and not just being on Fremont here in Vegas, but we have customers now from all over the world.
Nice. And then there was a panel that you guys did at Vegas Toy Con, and I thought there were some really good points during that panel that you were talking about how your business changed. You know, you walk into a situation, they recognize you, and all of a sudden they're negotiating against an all-star. So how did that
Yeah.
hurt you versus how much tourism you got that turned into sales in the store? Like what do you think was the balance there?
Well, it definitely changed the whole deal. The way the deal goes down, usually people want to reenact that segment on the show. So definitely, negotiating a deal definitely takes longer after the show. But outside of that, we've had some wonderful stuff come in. We've had people come, from France and India and Brazil that, come and bring their stuff from their childhood or things that they found. So that's amazing in itself, that people can relate to that show, and that
Mhm.
they take the time to, bring stuff to sell to us from, different countries. So it's pretty exciting. And just like I mean, we don't get like Civil War relics and
Mhm.
crazy like, things like Rick does at his place, but we do get some pretty amazing stuff that walks in through the shop.
Well, I don't think I realized or thought about it till just now about how much of a global phenomenon it is because, I watched Pawn Stars, my kids watch Pawn Stars, everybody knows that. I mean, they've been out for 23 seasons and they're still doing a version of the show.
Correct.
So just the fact that you could be in Scotland and watch Pawn Stars is mind blowing to me.
Yeah, it's and it's crazy because some countries it's even probably, I would say, uh, even a bigger show than it is here in the United States. Definitely Latin America's huge, and I
Mhm.
would say Europe, it's probably definitely a bigger show than it is here in the United States.
Nice, nice, cool. So let's talk about chases right now. So my toy guy Anton, he works for us and he's our toy expert and our TTG RPG expert. He just knows everything about figurines and toys and collectibles and stuff. And he made a point the other day that just blew my mind. It's like they're not even making toys for kids anymore. Like they make the preschool toys and stuff, but when you're looking at the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you're looking at this stuff, the NECA things and stuff behind me. Like
Correct.
these aren't made for children. These are made for people my age who are trying to relive their childhoods.
I mean, it's true because the new kids nowadays, they're all iPad and kind of into their gaming system. So that's definitely changed. But I would say guys from our era, the 80s, 90s kids are still, very big into the collectibles in the card market. And especially like I didn't think Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh would carry off and to what it is today, But
Mhm.
but you're right though. You go down the aisle and it's really stuff made for you and I, not really for the kids that like in our day, it's definitely changed in a lot
Mhm.
of ways.
Right, and they go out of their way even so the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that I bought for my kids for Christmas, they went out of their ways. There's faults with the design of how the swords go into the rubber holder on Leonardo and how the sai go into the belt and stuff like that. They kept them, even though they could have fixed them, because if they had made it correct, it wouldn't be right for somebody my age looking back at it.
Correct. Yeah.
So they like left that fault in as an intentional thing. That's kind of fun. Let's talk about chases. I know that you've talked about some wild stuff that comes into the store, but like, what have you been looking for that's the hardest thing to find? What might be the most valuable thing to find? And then on the other side of that, like, what kind of thing from your childhood do you think you chase and chase and chase because it's super, super hard to find, but it's not necessarily valuable? It's only valuable to you.
Uh, I mean, as far as like the grails I'm always looking for, like I'm a big red line Hot Wheel guy, so I collect that in my personal, and there's still, a couple cars on my list that I still like to cross out. As far as like, I'm an 80s kid, but I grew up collecting like toys from the 60s.
Mhm.
So I was really heavy into like a lot of like the press steel, a lot of the figures from the 60s. But for me, Mass, Thundercats, those are probably my two
Mhm.
favorites growing up. And some of that stuff is relatively affordable, but yeah, it just, those kind of things make me happy, and then, we get like crazy stuff that comes. This came in over the weekend. So we get, we process here. This is our warehouse. So, everything we buy, I get on Mondays, I'll get to come here and unbox a lot of stuff and put things together. So, that's never gets old to me.
Yeah, and I want to point out to everybody who's watching is that the reason why Johnny is walking around and stuff and the camera keeps bouncing is because we caught him during a time. It's Monday, it's his unpacking day or whatever. He just came back from a meeting. He's about to go to something else. So he's squeezing us in between stuff and we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so at Las Vegas Toy Con, let's come back to that for a minute. You showed me Carlos Molina and Projekt Cars build of the Tyler Kirkham Spider Buggy, which is an amazing build. And then we started talking to Carlos, and there's all kinds of other nerdy comics builds that he's done that are amazing that we've shown. But there's one that's very special that's coming up, and that's for SEMA coming up at the end of this year. And that is going to be your wide body Mustang. And you want to tell us about the theme of that?
Yeah, so it's going to be a Deadpool Mustang made for SEMA this year, and there's a collaboration with Cat Skin. It's going to be in the Cat Skin booth, so they'll be doing some custom interiors. We got a lot of other sponsors like Forge Line, Whipple Superchargers. Denman's going to do the carbon fiber on that, and then we have Clinch. Uh, we'll be doing the wide body kits on that. So we have quite a bit. We can't say too much about what's going to happen to the Mustang because he's got uh, a lot of things that he wants to launch. I mean, Carl's been in that world for quite a bit,
Mhm.
so it's going to be really exciting. And we also have a collaboration that we did here in Vegas. So we have a new comic store in Henderson. So we're working a lot in the new conventions too here in Las Vegas to try to grow that crowd and events and make some things happen. But we're excited about SEMA to have something and be a part of that this year.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool. And you mentioned the conventions, and so I ended up at Las Vegas Toy Con because another convention that I was supposed to go to was being really weird with press badges and stuff like that. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to Vegas, and I went out there and I had a great time. I didn't realize how many comics conventions and pop culture conventions and everything happen. I knew that Vegas was like, I was a flooring contractor for many years, and I know that there's a flooring contractor convention out there, which is wild, by the way. Just off the, I mean, those flooring contractors know how to party. Um, but between SEMA and the comics conventions and the toy conventions and just all the other stuff, like you've got stuff going on all the time. You are going to be
Yeah.
taking this car to 50 conventions a year.
Yeah, there's not an event that doesn't. There's not a week that passes that there's not an event in Vegas. We just had the licensing expo not that long ago,
Hmm.
and then there's tons of. There's so many conventions that I had no idea that existed, which is kind of funny to
Hmm.
me, But yeah, it's all in our backyard, so we're excited to represent a lot of these companies and bring the car with us everywhere we go.
That's really cool. And it's a talking piece too. So like people come up and they're like, oh, Deadpool, whatever. And then, so one of the things that I really love doing is bringing these fandoms together that are very niche. So you got comics and you got cosplay and you've got cars and you've got toys and all these different things. So like
Correct.
just kind of mashing everything together. I love that stuff so much. So gearheads and Deadpool comics fans and yeah, super stoked for that. I actually, with as many conventions that are happening out there, I'm trying to get a hold of my 12-year-old biggest mistake ever of buying timeshare in Las Vegas when I was young and dumb.
You did
I have
that.
never. I have never used it, not one time, but it's right next to the Bellagio, and I'm going to start pressing them for my dates and be like, "No, dude,
You
I need to
need
get
to.
these." Nice,
That's
nice.
funny. Yeah, yeah. But I've been a Mustang kid my whole life. My dad always had 3 to 4 Mustangs in our front yard. He was always right now. I have a '67 Mustang 2 convertible that we're restoring in Bakersfield,
Mm.
and then my two favorite superheroes are Punisher and Deadpool. So this is going to be exciting build. So and then every day it's a call from Carlos, and he'll have an idea or something that he wants to run by us, and so he's putting everything into this project. So I'm really excited to see the unveiling here in Vegas at SEMA.
It's going to be really cool. I'm planning on being out there. I'm trying to get that timeshare for that week, so I'll let you know
You
how
need
that works
to.
out.
You really need to.
Nice. The Mustangs that you were building when you were a kid, what's your favorite year?
67. 67 is
Nice.
probably my favorite year for all cars.
I
That
was
was
just
just
about
the
to say
best
67
year.
Mustang.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. We were working on a '67 Satellite too, with three on the tree. That was a pretty nice one.
Oh,
I think
wow.
'67 is a good year. Yeah,
Yeah, it was a great
nice.
year for cars.
So one of the conventions that's coming up too that you're involved with Carlos is out in El Paso in September. It's SoldierCon, right?
Correct. Yeah. So that's our second time doing that show. So I'll be doing that with Noel G. Um, we got a bunch of voice actors and
Hmm.
other celebrity folks that are going to be out there supporting the troops.
Hmm.
So it's really driven to support a lot, because a lot of the troops, believe it or not, they have big families and they don't have a
Hmm.
huge budget. So the conventions kind of cater to that clientele. And
Which is
yeah.
one of the things that I talked to Carlos about when we had him on a little while ago. Is just that these young men and women are kids and they're away from home and they are not getting paid well. I've seen my son. My son just got out of the army. He's 24. I've seen his pay sheets. I forget. There's a nomenclature. I can't think of it.
Yes.
I've seen his pay sheets, and they're not that different than the pay sheets that I had 30 years ago in the army.
Yeah.
These kids are not making a lot of money, and so to have something that brings a little bit of home, that brings a little bit of normal, just life to them, that brings something to do on the weekends instead of going out and showing your ass. I think it's important. And I actually canceled on a different convention to go to this one because of that, because I believe that these are resources that really, really, really are not available to a lot of kids, and they end up getting in trouble and falling in with the wrong. You know what I'm talking about.
Correct.
Yeah, so I'm excited to do that. But some of the other guys that are going to be there are Martin Kleba, and we've got one of the actors that was inside the ET puppet. The one that was stumbling around, that was drunk in the kitchen. He's going to be there. I'm super excited for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. This didn't come up in the pre-interview, and I don't mean to slam this on you, but one of the things I noticed at ToyCon is that there's kind of a shift to like custom toys and 3D manufactured toys. So along with the availability of video games and things like that, one of the things that I've noticed too is that like kids can come up with a cool file and print something and build their own little toy or something at home. Like there's two or three booths that were at Las Vegas Toy Con where they were just selling 3D models and stuff, and they were doing great. What do you think that brings to the toys and collectibles market?
I think it's a great way for these, you know, people to express themselves too. And I've seen this stuff that these guys are putting together now. Not used to be this little small stuff that was kind of cute and not that great, but dude, the stuff they're putting out now with these custom heads and huge figures, even one to
Hmm.
one scale stuff, which is unreal. But yeah, it's going to change the world of collecting. I'm going to see that evolving into something really, really big as these printers get, faster and cheaper. Um, as far as like the big toy manufacturers, I'm sure it's really scary, to them, because it won't be, maybe not, around the corner, but another maybe 10, 15 years,
Hmm.
I could see a parent, just downloading a file and making a spatula and making, a toy for a
Hmm.
kid. And, you know, it's going to be a game changer for sure.
Or like if the arm popped off of your He-Man or whatever, those things were super hard to get back on, those little, right? So maybe you could
Yes.
like print a new arm or print new armor for your toys or something like that. That would be a really cool like customization option. If
Yeah, to
it came with
upgrade some
files
toys.
in the back of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's going to be the new thing. So hopefully they adapt and these companies start working hand in hand with this stuff to, maybe that is the next toy, where you have the base part of it and then you just add on at your home, and just, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, eventually filament printers will be like the new printer. Like nobody had printers. One household out of 10 had printers. Now everybody's got 4 printers. 3 of them don't work. They got the newest one sitting there, whatever. Maybe that's the new thing is 3D printers in every room.
Correct. Yeah, I can see
Nice.
that.
What is the most shocking item that anybody has ever brought in to try and sell you?
Uh, it's it's always changing. People come in with the most random stuff. Um, One of them was real. Well, this is an older buy, but this older lady came in and she brought us the Atomic Energy Lab, and it was her husband's, and she didn't expect much from it, but she didn't know what it was, to be honest. You
She had
know,
the original Atomic Energy Lab?
yeah. So she brought that in.
Wow.
All the samples were there. Geiger counter was there. It was all clean and intact. And she had no, she's, and then when I told her that there was radioactive material inside of it, she got really scared because her grandkids were in the car. So,
Mhm.
but, over the years, it's not, you know, I don't think it's that dangerous anymore. But
Well, yeah, half-life of uranium, I don't think goes 60 years, but
yeah,
yeah, no, for those of you who don't understand what we're talking about here, the Atomic Energy Center was a toy during the atomic age where they were basically trying to teach kids that atomic energy was safe and different ways they were trying to get kids involved with science. And they put out these kits that had active uranium, enriched uranium in the kit, and you could
yeah,
make it power little things and do different experiments with them or whatever, and test radiation with a Geiger. There was a Geiger counter in the thing telling you that
yeah.
what you were looking at was super radioactive, and people were giving it to their children.
They were playing with it with their bare hands, doing these experiments at home. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's a different time, definitely back then. But yeah, that just walked in through the door one day,
with all the
and
pieces intact, like they never took it
yeah,
apart and played with it or
yeah,
anything.
it
It was
was
all sealed.
beautiful. Yeah, it was every. It was. And so, anyways, we gave her enough money to take her kids to Disneyland. So that was great. She wasn't expecting that, so that worked out.
That's
Yeah,
fantastic. And that's always great. When people come in, that's one of the things that you see on the show a lot is people come in and they say, I want $200 for this thing. And you go, well, actually, it's worth about 10 grand, so I'd like to give you 6. And then they
yeah,
go, oh, well, it's worth 10. I want the 10. And you're like, that's not how this works. But you asked for
yeah.
200. I could have given you the 200 and you wouldn't have known.
Yeah, that does happen too, unfortunately. But everything the way we do everything's based on market value. So,
Mhm.
and sometimes it's kind of hard to even find that, because you do see people asking, ridiculous amounts for certain items, and people can get really confused on what they're looking at when they search items online.
Right. If you don't see it every day, there's no way you would know.
Correct.
I
Yeah.
can look at a comic book and tell you if it's, because on the back they've got coding in the UPC, or whether it's the first edition, the second edition, and the third print, the fourth print, the fifth print, whatever. But a lot of people don't. So when they look at it and they just see, what was the one, The Last Ronin from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? They did like 25 printings on that. And so people were going into stores and they're grabbing handfuls. And I'm like, that's the seventh printing. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
go ahead if that makes you happy, but that's not as valuable as you think it's going to be ever.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Okay, so we talked about SoldierCon, we talked about SEMA, we got a few other things coming up. Is there anything coming up imminently that you want to let us know about before we take off here?
Uh, well, we're excited about SoldierCon SEMA, of course. We'll be in San Diego Comic Con, and then we'll be in Albuquerque for the Matchbox convention.
Oh,
So,
cool.
I'll send you the dates on that so we could post that up. But yeah, it's a diehard convention, and that's sponsored by Mattel. So that'll be in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Right on. Cool, cool. All right, well, I am Brennan Allen. That is Johnny from the Toy Shack. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.